Hello, and welcome to the 2019 CX Virtual Event, 5 Tactics to Increase Customer Engagement. My name is Maria Antfort with Argyle Executive Forum, and it's great to have everyone joining us today. I have a few administrative details to share with you, and then I will turn things over to our esteemed speakers. First, I would like to thank Bold360 by LogMeIn for their partnership with today's event. They've been a wonderful thought leadership partner to Argyle and are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. So thank you again, Bold360 by LogMeIn. We appreciate you joining us today. We welcome you to stay connected during today's event. For those of you who are active tweeters, please use the hashtag Argyle Exec Forum. You can also follow us on Twitter, and be sure to join our LinkedIn group, Customer Experience CX Forum. I also wanted to take a moment to touch on our content neutrality policy, which we've curated based on the feedback we've received over the years from our members. Argyle is very proud and protective of this policy, as it reflects on our commitment to ensure the neutrality and overall value of the content presented at our events. We work closely with our speaking faculty to ensure that you receive a set of balanced and neutral viewpoints during the session today, and we appreciate our members' support of this policy. We have an upcoming CX Leadership Forum that may be of interest to you. It's on October 17 in Toronto. Finally, and most importantly, please submit any and all questions that come up during today's event into the Q&A section of the interface. Following the panel discussion, we have set aside time for our speakers to weigh in on these questions. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Nicole Lawler, Senior Product Marketing Manager at LogMeIn. We're pleased to have Nicole with us to deliver opening remarks. Welcome, Nicole. Over to you.
Hi, Maria. Thank you so much. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us. I'm really excited to be speaking today. And we also have a great panel towards the end of the webinar. And like Maria said, we're all happy to answer any questions that you have. So please keep submitting them as they come to you. So jumping right in, what I really wanted to talk about today were tactics that you need to increase your customer engagement. So it's definitely no secret. There are many competitors out there in almost every vertical. And so it's really hard to stand out based on your products or services alone. And I know this is a pain that many organizations feel, especially in today's digital age. The one thing about customer experience is that customer experience can really help your organization stand out, and improving your customer engagement strategy is a great way to do this. So one question you really need to ask yourself is, do you think your organization is missing out on potential revenue due to poor customer experiences? And how can you fix that? Because let's face it, nobody wants to lose revenue. And we see with a lot of customers that we work with that getting better at customer engagement, developing a customer engagement strategy has huge benefits. So we see customers who increase their customer lifetime value for their own customers, receive higher CSAT and NPS scores, increase their average order size or conversion rates, especially for those B2C organizations, and increase agent satisfaction. So about a year ago, we did a 4-star maturity model where we surveyed hundreds of organizations really about customer engagement, and we ranked them based on if they were beginners at customer engagement or if they were experts, and kind of all the different tactics in between. And so what we really found were that organizations that were experts in customer engagement were 30% more likely to report double-digit growth than those beginner organizations. Almost 30% had higher average order sizes, and they increased over time. And 16% were more likely to report increased conversions. So today I want to talk to you about different tactics that you can do at your organization to really increase your customer engagement. So just jumping right into it, it's really important to understand what your customers are asking and really how they're asking it. So I think the easiest way to do this is, slide delay, is to simply look at the questions your customers are asking. So you can do this by either, talking to your support agents, going through your support queue, maybe go through emails, messages, things like that, and find out maybe they're simple support questions. So maybe questions around your product, such as how do I log in, or how can I use this product, or maybe they're support questions about your website. So what are your hours if you are brick and mortar locations, or where can I find something on your site? They could be support questions related to your products that are very complicated. So maybe it's specifically how do you use a product, or they're having complications with a product or service that you have. Maybe they want to make some type of complicated return. And so those type of questions is important to know, just so that you know that some questions can be answered by maybe something like AI, like a chatbot, or maybe you need to be working with people where you're actually escalating to live chat, so live people. And then are you getting a lot of sales-related questions? So maybe you have a support center set up, and you find that you're not really getting product support questions, but more pre-sales questions. I know we have a customer, Citrix, for example, who set up a support center, and they found that they were getting a huge majority of pre-sales questions about their products, and they found that they were missing out on potential conversions because they didn't have either agents there set up to help, or a way for those potential customers to get answers to their questions around the product. And then making sure your company is really in tune with how your customers are perceiving your product. So you may call your product one thing or talk about your product in one way, but do your customers talk about your product that way? So one thing that we see a lot of companies do is that they talk about their products externally the same way that they do internally, and maybe there's a different language to be used there. And also understanding this can help the way you talk about your products or services on your support content and on your website. And maybe there's also value and benefits that customers are seeing from using your products or services that you might not be aware of, and you might not be advertising as well as you could be. And then what's the complexity of the products, of the questions being asked, especially around the products? So really to accommodate this, you need to know what questions they're asking and their responses. So are your customers satisfied with the questions, and are there gaps? So super complex questions, like I said before, maybe they can't be answered with AI. So are you able to escalate to a live person? And maybe there's a lot of simple, repetitive questions like password reset that gets asked over and over and over again, and can those questions be answered with AI? And again, is there a simple handoff? So are you able to tell the difference between these simple and complex questions? And then are you able to escalate easily to a live person for these people to talk to? And then other gaps in agent knowledge, or also lack of content. So are there questions that aren't getting answered that your customers have? And is this due to a lack of answers that you have, maybe in your knowledge base, or is this your agents don't have the answers to the questions? Or maybe you have the answers and you have a knowledge base set up, but it's not easily accessible by your agents. So you really need to also create content based on your customers' needs. So when we talk content strategy, we're not talking just marketers. I am in product marketing, so I hear a lot, constantly every day, content, content, content. But here I don't necessarily mean it from a marketing perspective. So really to increase engagement with your customers and increase engagement with the content, you need to create content that they'll want to consume. So the content type really does matter. Maybe your audience likes videos versus step-by-step guides, and do you have a way to access that information and understand that? I know I personally like seeing things, so I would want a video of something that shows me how to access something or how to use a product versus actually reading it. And then looking at your customers' persona. So are they technical, are they non-technical, and are you providing the right content there? And it's really important not having just a generic, how can I help you content, but targeted content relevant to what you know about that user. So provide a personalized experience. I think this one is really important. So I spoke on the last slide really about how the kind of content you deliver is important, why it's important for really the customer journey. And I really want to talk right now about the importance of how you deliver it. So obviously, giving a personal touch at scale to all customers can be very expensive, and it's almost impossible. I know we all try as hard as we can. It's expensive, it's not scalable, but with the help of AI and a lot of other technology that exists, you can at least go a step or two in the right direction, even if you're just starting out. So it's important to look at what data you have on your customers. Maybe it's an integrated CRM system, so you can look at these systems and see their past history, maybe what they ordered, if they've ever ordered anything from your organization, the average order size, any kind of interaction they've had with your organization, and even at the most basic level, just their name. Being able to provide a personalized experience where you know their name is definitely better than nothing. And just because you don't have all of this information for each person visiting your website, it doesn't mean that you can't provide some level of customization. So right now I really want to talk about proactive engagement. So when I say proactive engagement, what I'm talking about is being able to reach out to your prospects and customers to offer either information, assistance, or help before they have to ask for it. So imagine you walk into a store. I'm going to use shoes, for example. If I walk into a shoe store, what is the first thing that happens? Usually, if it's a good store, somebody comes up and they ask if I need help, if I know what I want, if I need help finding anything. If I'm walking around for a little bit and staring at, one shoe for a really long time, they might come over and ask, do I have questions about this shoe? Do I need to see it in a different size? Do I want to try it on? And if I'm walking around for a while, I haven't really found anything, it looks like I'm walking around aimlessly, someone's going to come over and they're going to ask if I need help finding something. And really the end goal of this is to give me enough engagement to eventually make me buy something or convert into a customer. If you think about your website right now, what happens when you have a prospect or customer come to your homepage? So they're shoppers on your website right now. They might have their credit cards out and ready to make a purchase, but they don't have they don't have anybody to reach out to ask for help necessarily. And when they do they have to call in? Does that take them a very long time, and are they likely to do that? This is a problem that a lot of companies face. So they're more reactive with their online visitors instead of being proactive. And a huge issue with this as well is that a lot of organizations spend a lot of money bringing traffic to their website. So they do ads online, and this goes for B2C customers and B2B companies as well. So lots of ads, think LinkedIn, Google AdWords, things like that. They're spending all of that money to bring people into their site, but what are they doing, with those people once they get there? So companies often let potential buyers just roam their site without engaging, and these organizations tend to see higher cart abandonment rates and a lot of bounce rates. So yeah, they get people to their site, but then they just fall right off. And when customers can't find what they need on your site, they could get frustrated and annoyed, and they could go to some other site and look someplace else. And if you're not reaching out, this is a perfect opportunity to reach out to those customers in a moment of friction. So when they need help, when there's an opportunity to help them or give them assistance. So you need to be able to address these points of friction. And with technology and proactive AI, you are able to. It's really also important, when delivering content to make it informative and relevant. So I feel like this one goes without saying, but when you're engaging with customers, it has to be content that is relevant to them, and it has to be content that they want to see. So with AI, you can use data and have a much more focused conversation with customers or prospects than just using proactive AI to throw anything right in their face. And this can really help from shifting from generic offers and form fills to personalized and conversational engagement. So if somebody's already filled out a form on your website, do you make them fill out a form every single time they want to look at content? Because chances are you already have all of their information, and that's not a great experience. And then timely. So customers, they don't want to be bombarded with content the second they get to your website. I know I personally hate when I go to a website and I found, this site, maybe I want to go shopping or look for something, and I immediately get a pop-up. And this pop-up has nothing to do with, the point of the customer journey I'm in. They're just throwing it up, again, just any kind of really generic pop-up that maybe it's for a particular asset or maybe something's on sale if it's a B2C customer. But you also, on the opposite side of that, you don't want to be on a site for a long time, have trouble finding something or have questions, and not be able to get answers to those questions. So being timely as well as informative and relevant is really important, especially when we're talking about a personalized, proactive AI approach. And delivering rich content. So this goes right back to the type of content you're serving. So if you feel like you're falling behind in the customer engagement and your customer engagement strategy, no matter how many different tactics you try, I really suggest going back to the content, because that could be, where there's a huge gap. And now delivering support where your customers want it. So it's really important to look at what your current strategy is for delivering the support to your customers. If they want help, how do they reach out to you? What options do they have? So we often see organizations that we work with that have a one way for their customers to communicate with them. So for example, maybe they have a phone number available, or they have email available for their customers to contact them, as well as prospects with any product or service related inquiries that they have. But we really believe in, giving the choice to the customers. So a lot of companies take an inside-out approach when looking at this. So, hey, we're going to build a website, it's going to have a certain flow, but in reality, a better way to look at it is where your customers are not moving forward in the buyer's journey, and where can you give them support to help them move forward. So customers want, their problems solved, and they want them solved in the fastest way possible. So you want to make sure that you're giving options to your customers that really satisfy them. Whether it's online, on the phone, or in person, it's much better to be where your customers are versus forcing them to be where you are. So here we really take an omni-channel approach, looking at different options to engage with your customers. So live chat. We talk a lot about AI. As great as AI is, I don't believe that AI is ever going to replace humans, definitely not completely. You still need to have that live chat option, even if you do have an artificial intelligent bot that's able to help answer those routine questions. When it comes to your brand, you want to give a face to your brand, and it is great to have, different digital options for your customers and prospects, but it is also great to give them the option to talk to a live person, but also then have that seamless escalation from bot to human if you want to do a bot-first strategy, for example. And then email. So as much as we all wish it was, email definitely isn't dead, and I don't see it going away anytime soon. So we did a survey this past year, and we found that 65% of consumers said that email is their preferred way to communicate. So, you don't want to upset customers and make them feel like you don't want to talk to them by either removing email and not having email at all. It still can be important. And this is really based on who your customers are. So I think that, email doesn't have to be the right solution for every type of organization. But, looking at your customers, their persona, what they care about, that's a great way to start and see, do we get a lot of emails? Do people prefer emails, or do they prefer to self-serve? Social media as well. So there's absolutely no hiding from social media. It's everywhere. Brands that are interacting with customers on social media, you become part of your customers' everyday lives. And, there's millions and billions of people across Facebook, Twitter, all different social media accounts. So it really is important to be on social media and have a way, for example, Facebook Messenger, where they can connect with you and your brand. And SMS, so texting, I get texts from many brands. I actually sometimes prefer that as a means of communications. Again, that's just me, but providing customers with, a phone number, texting phone number, so you can keep things like coupon codes, tracking information, all via text, could be a great move for them. And then also video. So video is just another channel. Being able to video with someone, turn on a video, show them live demonstrations, visual demonstrations, is a great way to engage with your customers. And this all really is around, future-proofing your engagement strategy. Channel agnostic AI technology can be really important so that you don't have to be forced to be within one channel, and be able to scale channels and interaction volume without adding complexity. And the last tactic I have here is really around keeping a pulse on your customers. So this isn't a one-time activity. It's really important to know as much about your customers as you can, and this isn't always easy. I think it can definitely be complicated for any organization. I sure haven't mastered it. When we're talking about keeping a pulse on your customers, sometimes, if you have the ability, just talk to your customers. So speaking directly with your customers, that can really help you understand their problems better. And it's okay if you don't often have the opportunity yourself to speak with customers. You can talk with someone in your organization that does. Maybe you are in a role where you're more internal facing and you don't speak to customers necessarily, but you do have the opportunity most likely to talk with sales, to talk with your customer care agents, to talk with marketing, with customer success. And these groups might have, different pieces of a puzzle where you can put all this information together and find out, just really get a pulse on your customers, what they're happy about, what they're not, what kind of changes they'd want to see. Looking at reviews and forums can be a great way to get a pulse on your customers as well. So sometimes your customers might write something on a review site that they might not say directly to your face, so it's really important to be looking at review sites, especially for those B2B customers. LinkedIn groups is also a great way to do it. Any kind of watering holes where your customers tend to talk. And again, you might find that you get a better perspective of customer feedback. And data-driven insights. So no matter how much work you do, around trying to increase customer engagement, improve the customer experience, it's really important to look at the data. So looking into your data to see where you see gaps. Do you even have the ability to look at your data? So are you able to capture all the inquiries that come in? It's really important to do so, but also to be able to see, what questions can currently be answered, what can't, and how you can improve these answers to provide better support to your customers, which in turn provides better engagement and a better customer experience. Awesome. So I really appreciate you guys hanging around. So like I mentioned before, we are going to do a Q&A at the end of this panel discussion. So please keep your questions in and keep asking them throughout the rest of the panel. But right now, I'd really like to hop right in introducing you to our panelists. So I was able to talk to these three gentlemen last week. We were able to connect, kind of learn more about their organizations, what they're doing from a customer engagement perspective. So I think we have a great panel coming up for you. But I'd love to, jump right in and have them introduce themselves. So Kiran, if you don't mind starting.
Sure. Thank you, Nicole. My name is Kiran Jain. I'm an architect at Freddie Mac with over 20 years in the IT industry and 15 plus years in the architecture world. Most folks already are familiar with Freddie Mac in the secondary mortgage business. We are more of a B2B shop rather than a B2C. I have experience in enterprise architecture technologies, solution architecture, IT strategy, information security, CRM, digital technologies, and customer experience. Thank you.
Thanks, Kiran. Bodi, do you want to go now?
Sure. Thanks, Nicole. Hi, everybody. My name is Bodi Cameron. I currently head up digital brand and corporate marketing for Littelfuse. Littelfuse is a Chicago-based $2 billion public company that makes electronic components and systems which are used in various electrical applications. Our products are mostly in consumer electronics and automotive applications. We work with some of the most well-known brands in the world, including Apple, Schneider Electric, and Tesla. Interestingly, our products are used in over 80% of new cars that are built today. And prior to Littelfuse, I held leadership roles in business development, marketing, and brand management at McDonald's and at Bosch.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bodi. And Stephen, last but not least.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Miko. I am Stephen Nee, Head of Marketing and Communications at Kloeckner Metals Corporation in North America. We're actually a German company, but we're headquarters right here in Roswell, Georgia. I'm essentially responsible for all aspects of marketing at this, we're actually, marketing actually sits within Kloeckner, within the digital innovations team. So it's a very kind of hybrid type of situation with our marketing and innovation and customer experience.
Great. Again, thank you all for being on this panel. So, really just to kick it off today, so as companies more and more are moving to a digital strategy, I'm really curious to how the digital age has made an impact on the customer's journey, within each one of your industries as well as your organizations. And Stephen, if you want to kick it off.
Sure. I think, look, with our industry, we're in the metals and steel. So it's essentially a kind of a laggard type of industry. I think most of our customers are about 50 plus, and so their adaptation to technology is a little bit on the slow side. And so for us, it's just realizing that, introducing them to the change and the transition of this world of everything digital, and kind of coaching them throughout that process. And so we definitely have seen within the last 4 years that their expectations have grown, and just even the introductions with other of our competitors into the market has kind of expand, utilizing all different types of digital aspects within their daily workflow.
Yeah, so I can definitely see, based on the personas and your actual customers really having to tailor, and it might be, your digital strategy might be very different compared to, an organization that one is comprised mostly of, let's say, millennials as well as millennial customers.
Yeah, definitely. And, I think that's the challenge, right? It's like we want to obviously be known as innovators within the industry, but at the same time, we don't want to push too far ahead, where it makes us seem out of touch. And so it's like really a scaled back version of really pushing innovation into the industry. And so it's kind of a unique case, is because, we can definitely do a lot more. And at times it's challenging for me because I'm just like, oh, we can definitely do a lot more and integrate this. And it's just that some customers aren't just quite ready for it yet.
Absolutely, and that brings a great point. So I think it is really important to be mindful of who your customers are. And, sometimes we think, customers don't know this great solution. If we teach them this great solution, it's going to solve everything. But it's important not to lose what your customers want, in that process.
Yeah, I think, another perspective on, kind of keeping the balance in terms of what the needs are and what you see in the marketplace and what the customers want. In my space with Littelfuse, it's a very much B2B, kind of sales process, and it's a long sales process where, we work with Tesla, even though they're much quicker in their turnaround in terms of developing new products than, let's say, a GM, who we also work with, where they used to have a 3 to 4 year kind of time frame on, working with them and developing products. Tesla has a much shorter time frame in terms of 9 months to a year. Our customers' expectations are growing. I mean, we deal a lot with new electrical engineers that are getting into the space, designing new hardware, consumer electronics, and we see the numbers when we see the surveys in terms of what design engineers want. At the same time, we are also dealing with a portion of our business really is in the industrial electrical space, where a lot of the engineers are, of an older generation. And so we have to really balance out, kind of personal touches and personal conversations, personal sales calls, and using digital technologies and content, anticipating kind of those questions, to your point, Nicole, and making sure that that content's available or it can be found on our website or on the, in the digital space and in our channels. The other key piece I want to bring in to here, this question as it relates to, how digital disruption is really changing. I think a lot of the space, I used to be in the B2C space, and, prior to coming to Littelfuse 8 years ago, and certainly there were a lot of changes and quick changes, and we're starting to see some of that in the B2C space, in the B2B space with our distributors who are becoming really adept at selling online and developing key features and functionality in terms of the customer experience, similar to, the best e-commerce companies in the world. And so, we see that disrupting really how we go to market as well. And so we have to anticipate, those needs that our customers have and begin to morph ourselves as well, because they're challenging us in terms of the brand building and in terms of the, getting awareness at the early stages with some of the customers we want to make sure are our customers instead of being the customers of the distribution partner. So digital disruption for us now is really real, and it's pushing our organization to move faster.
Yeah, that's a great point, especially around sometimes it's not just your customers, but your customers' customers that you have to be adapting your strategy to.
Yeah.
Right. And
exactly.
Nicole, the nature of Freddie Mac's business model, we are more of a B2B shop rather than B2C, yet customer experience is the key across Freddie Mac. We strive not only to know, listen, but also to understand our customers. We have rebranded our site with customer first in mind. That would mean more self-service capabilities for our customer with an overall better digital experience across all our externally facing application suites and websites. Besides, one key thing which I would like to point out is, besides listening to our customers, listen to your competitors as well, right? So that is also the key to survival.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a great point. And just curious, Kiran, how was your adoption, moving to a more self-service strategy?
So what self-service gives is, I would give you an example, right? We have, I think you also gave the same example for password reset. Instead of having to call to a human to reset your password, let customers self-service that, right? All you need to do is have 5 key security questions which they can answer, and when they forget their password or it expires, they can come back and reset their password. So just by that one mere act, you can eliminate a lot of those human intervention which are required. Also leads to a lot of customer satisfaction, because now the customer doesn't have to wait for somebody. They can directly go and self-service themselves.
Absolutely, and that's a great example, because I know having to call into someone is my personal nightmare. If I need to and I need to talk to a person, I want a person on the phone. But if it's something that's very simple that I know can be solved easily, I much rather prefer to self-serve than take up an agent's time to answer these, simple questions, as well as, like wait on hold or anything like that.
Right. And also for one of our security applications, Nicole, what we have done is, we have also pioneered in delegated administration. So when we work with B2B companies, we actually have designated administrators for those companies who can manage their own customers, rather than letting our own people do that work. Since they are more familiar with their own users, they can manage customers in their own organization. Again, self-service model, empowering your customers who understand their own customers, right? So again, those are very good examples where self-service actually works.
That's great. I love those examples. So again, talking about my presentation. So going back to the beginning, I talked about how customer experience can really be a differentiator when it comes to competition, especially as customer expectations have risen. So I'm interested to hear, and I know it'll be different based on the maturity of each one of your organizations, but how you really cater specifically to these heightened expectations. If we want to start with Bodi.
Sure. You know, for our organization, it's really making sure that the entire organization, you know, depending on how you're interacting with a customer, you know, you speak about the, you know, product marketing end, product conversations or sales or support, making sure that all of those organizations have customer data, right, at their fingertip, and that they understand, you know, where the customers are in the journey, what questions they had before, what are they thinking about currently, you know, and anticipating where their needs are. So, you know, for us, it's definitely a huge challenge to, you know, put together all of the data into one place and then making it accessible for the entire organization to just even understand where the expectations are in each stage of the process, and really having the whole entire organization focus on the customer, right, and understanding the external customers. So that's, you know, sort of where we are. We haven't really gotten to full alignment in terms of, hey, you know, from a marketing perspective, we understand customers' expectations are growing by the minute. Its expectations are much higher than what we've been able to address, at least on the digital side. Certainly from our sales organization, they're doing a great job of catering to the current customers, but it's been difficult for them to follow up on and gain new traction, right, with new customers. And so for us, we're, you know, on the marketing side, we're really focused more on digital enablement on the front end for brand building, right, with search, with making sure that our information's available off-site and on-site, and then focusing on the after-sales service. You know, it's just because those two areas are kind of easier to change at this point in time. So the sales organization is quite big. Again, you know, person to person, design engineer to design engineer. It's a little bit more difficult for us to change that part of the business today, but we're doing a pretty good job in terms of product marketing on the front end, and then after sales service on the back end.
That's great input. I love that. Kiran, do you have anything to add as far as, you know, increasing customer expectations?
Yes, I always have something. You know, today, you all are looking for happy customers. I mean, at the end of the day, regardless of what business model you are in, customers could be Generation X, Y, Z. They're all very tech savvy nowadays, right? So for them, they want to seamlessly operate across multiple channels. Typically, we call that as an omnichannel, and that is the key of bringing various digital technologies to work seamlessly to elevate your customer experience. Now, omnichannel would include stuff like voice, chat, email, text, co-browsing, and then obviously you want to empower your customers to visualize, to self-service. I'll give you a good example where we had a legacy application and we just went live with that. Now in the legacy was an old generation application. We modernized that with customer in mind, had a rich UI, and at the same time, it's more of a self-service dashboard where customers can figure out and see where they are in the application process. And customers are absolutely loving it because they didn't have that capability. Now they can visualize where they are, what is incomplete, what needs to be completed. They can see that milestone in front of their eyes. And that's what you want to give them, right? You want to empower them to visually see that.
Absolutely. And by having that visualization, I'm sure you get way less support questions, because I can imagine a lot of questions that your agents and support team were getting was, you know, updates on the process, where they were in the process, what needed to be completed, things like that.
Exactly. And more than that, it's the customer satisfaction. At the end of the day, you have a happy customer.
Exactly.
Yeah. I do want to piggyback off of that a little bit. Is just, you know, like for us, it is really like we went through the process of like really understanding the customer's pain points, at least within the ordering transaction process, because we're mostly B2B as well. And so, you know, our history of ordering materials is done through fax for emails, and people are manually entering each item that they want to buy. And these could be like line items up to like 200, 300 lines within a spreadsheet. And so for us, it's just really understanding. I was like, oh, like adaptation and utilization will grow as long as we're definitely focused on making them happy, and then really also showing them the value of what we're bringing to the table as far as like our digital tools to provide them. And I think that's really been successful. I think the other challenge too, it's pros and cons, is how the world around them has evolved as well. As now they're getting used to all these digital tools outside of their work environment, and so I think that it brings at least a level of openness. But at the same time, yeah, the expectations have grown. And oh, why don't you guys have this? And you're like, well, yeah, we haven't talked about this being a focus or a pain point. And so I think that's the challenge that we're constantly is okay, here's phase one, here's phase two, and just really teaching our customers about we can always build on, but let's focus on the foundation and then build up. And I think they really appreciated that.
Yeah, so I love that example around kind of, it's not just customers' expectations growing, it's also, they're used to using these digital channels and want them kind of in all aspects when they're working with you guys. So we see that a lot. What we talk about a lot at Bold 360 is that even just talking about employees, so employee satisfaction and employee expectations are growing just because we are constantly, as consumers and customers, getting better and better and better and better support, that we're starting to expect that in all aspects of our life. So even from work to exactly what you were saying. So, back to talking about customers, and obviously, we touched upon increasing expectations, but are you seeing, any of your organizations, some trends around customer interactions? You want to start with Bodi?
Sure. Again, for us, the younger design engineers, their experience and their satisfaction levels, rival that of, to your point, we're all consumers, and our expectations are growing very quickly, very fast. Even some of the older generation folks, when they got on Facebook about 5-7 years ago, now they're becoming more savvy, and we know that there are touch points that are not addressing the customer's needs in terms of being more transparent, being more readily available. For example, our sales process, and even actually, a better example is actually, after sales process, where we have a lot of, we're working now with, for example, Fitbit, a startup that didn't exist 10 years ago. And, when they came on, they would prefer to actually work with us and order their parts online. And we still don't have that capability. And now we're working with them closer as a growing part of our business to really understand, how do they want our sales and our supply chain to be different? They want instant kind of notification in terms of the orders that they place, where it's at in the supply chain, when is it going to ship, when is it going to be delivered. And right now, we have customer service folks that are touching all of those touch points. So you can imagine how inefficient that process is, and we have to upgrade kind of our back end and e-commerce system to really address those particular needs of a lot of the new companies that are, multi-million-dollar accounts for us that we need to learn to address better so that we can continue to grow with them. So, those are some of the trends, in the electronic space, right? Tesla, we started working with them, about a decade ago, but before that, they didn't exist. So, and there's a lot of these new companies that present a huge opportunity for us and as well as the channels. And that's really, helping drive some of the conversations and making sure that, we've got some energy to try to address some of these gaps.
Lily, I love the Fitbit example. It's a great example of showing, like what your customers want. They're coming to you with these requests, and it's kind of changing or might be changing how you do business. Kiran, do you have anything to add around?
Yeah, we have so many cool cases like that.
Yeah, I love that.
Sure. And I think to piggyback, I think you have to meet your customers in the, at the technology what they bring to the table. So if it's text, then you respond by text. If it is voice, then voice. If it is email, and so on, right? So customers have their own preferred channel, and then we need to cater to that for our customers. But one thing which I see now evolving in the industry is the move towards the smart bots, right? What those smart bots will do is they will understand, or they will have knowledge about your customer, and the interactions with that would be based on that, that there is some AI machine learning done, and then they would base their interactions based on the customer's knowledge, what the bot already has. So that's something which I've been observing there. But again, not to replace a human interaction, but actually to supplement it, or to handshake it with a human, saying that, yes, I have given all this, touch points, or all this front-ending, things where they can look at, but go ahead and continue your onward conversation. So, but again, one thing what I would like to say is many times people get caught up, but in the AI machine learning world, it could be as simple as smart searches, which just understands the whole concept of what the customer is searching for, and guiding them. Again, because I'm an architect, I got to say that all this has to be done keeping your architecture simple, yet cohesive to work together in harmony. So you have to make sure that all the stuff what you have, regardless of omnichannel or whatnot, they all have to cohesively work hand in hand together to understand your customer and to serve them better.
Yeah, you make a great point. Yeah, Kiran. I mean, in terms of customers preferring their own channel. I mean, in my reflecting on my personal life, when I call a large cable internet company, which should remain unnamed, I mean, I've tried to use the chatbot, and we really have to be careful as customer experience leaders not to downgrade the experience, right? Because you could stay on the phone and wait for a while, but if you can speak to somebody and they help you resolve your problem, then it's a thumbs up. But if you're chatting with the chatbot and all they're doing is just serving you links which aren't relevant, that degrades the experience tremendously. So the other kind of facet to this is, yes, be omni-channel, but be available in the channels where your customers most prefer, right? You have to do the 80-20 rule, because I think, sometimes we just say, well, we got to be available everywhere. And the reality is there's limited resources, and you can only do customer service or customer experience well, in most of the channels, let's say, but not all. So I've had, really not great experiences with chatbots, and, so we really need to be careful. We've got to use the technology in the right way and avoid kind of downgrading the experience. And, it kind of speaks back to, you've got to have data, you've got to be measuring. Maybe it's a proof of concept for the company. Hopefully they figured out the kinks, and, it's much better now. But, we've got to make sure that, we're looking at the customer data, making sure we understand, okay, this particular channel we can be successful in, or it's where the customers prefer to be, right?
Yeah, that definitely happens in my world. Yeah, that definitely happens in my world, where people get excited about the new toy, and so they're like, oh, what about this? And so it's like, well, let's slow down. And can we do it? If we implement this, like, how well are we going to do it? Like you said, Bodi, like when you go online and chat with someone, but they can't solve your problem, but you can pick up the phone and call them. And what was the point of that experience? It's wasted time. So with our customers, I think it is about that. It's like well, let's and even the challenge I actually have internally, being in a B2B world with an older audience, is the fact that they're actually afraid of the new technology and offering it to the customers too, because I think, I live in this fear-based industry with all that stuff, automation and everything. So, like, I think their hesitancy to even, we have to like kind of build digital champions internally as well before they can even present it to the customers, because customers might even tell them that they want it or they're open to it, but I think their fear kind of holds them back at times. So I think we try to look at it from all angles. It's like, okay, we don't want to just do that, just to say that we have it, because if it's a bad experience, then that's not going to help us. But at the same time, it's like really coaching and training our internal team to really be comfortable with this type of technology when we decide to launch something, and for them to kind of own it before we even transition to something new.
Yeah, I think those are all great points, right? You don't want to go all on board or aboard with the technology because it's a new, cool to have tool. Understand your customers first, right? What is your customer? What are they really using, right? If there is no need for something fancy, then stick to the mainstream technologies, right? I think the key is understanding your customers before you commit on a technology.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think it's really important when you're talking about, an omnichannel approach and strategy, to really talk about how you balance self-serve and human interaction. So, maybe you do have a bot-first approach, but there is a seamless handoff to a live agent, and that live agent should have all of the information from the conversation that you had with the bot. So when they're either talking to you via chat or you need to call in, you're not starting from scratch, because that isn't a good experience for the customer to continuously have to repeat themselves.
Yeah, we're all starting to sound like bots by then, right?
I know. Great point. So really looking at the different stages in the customer's journey, especially at your organizations, is there a particular stage or space where you really struggled with moving your customers along, and maybe there's a way you improved it by leveraging AI?
Well, this is Bodi. For us, we really, again, focus very much on the front end, brand building, creating awareness, some of the engagement in terms of marketing automation. But in terms of AI, we're currently implementing our product roadmap on on-site search to make sure that we do a great job brand building. People are aware of, our products and our new products that we're bringing to market. They come to our site via search, via email, but once they're on our site, we carry 80,000 SKUs on the site, and so it could be very difficult to narrow down and find exactly the products that they're looking for. So for us, on-site search and using machine learning, using AI to help with that, to help serve up the most relevant results will really help us, and we're really excited about that particular project.
That's awesome. Love to hear that. Kiran, what about you?
Yeah, I think, again, before you invest, I think the key is, you definitely do the cost-benefit analysis of where you really need that AI, because many times you really don't have to or don't need AI per se. It could be more of a broader analytics kind of stuff where you could analyze your data, because there is a solution for every customer's need, right? It could be different based on your need. For example, I think what Bodi mentioned, smart searches, are fantastic, right? The smart searches could learn from human interaction, become more context aware, and they become smarter with time, right? Now, those are very much mainstream technologies which are already available out there, right? You could run some canned models on your customers' interaction to see what are the sentiment, what are they thinking about. So I think those are the stuff which is already out there. You don't have to be necessarily on the bleeding edge, but you could be on somewhere between the leading and the mainstream world.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to look at kind of where is your biggest problem. What is the biggest problem that you want to solve and that you want to solve first, and look there for solutions and maybe where AI can help if possible. kind of talking about, I know we've talked a lot about customer experience, customer engagement, the different stages in customers' journey, but I really want to talk more on the analytics side. So how do you guys in your organization use data to help, improve customer experience and drive engagement?
This is Steve. I'll start with that one. I think, for being we have numerous locations across the U.S. or branch, and kind of like Bodi, when he was talking about the on-site search, we started implementing RFID technology into our warehouses. Obviously, there's some different learning experiences with that since we have so much metal and the sensors are going all over the place. So we had to perfect that process of the implementation. But that definitely has reduced time searching for inventory and helped a lot with efficiencies. And I think it opens up you being able to access that transparency and just even that type of information quickly allows you, I know for us, it's open doors for new businesses of how quickly we can get in and out of a warehouse. And so we're constantly looking to figure out, would this work in this environment or that? So it's just really paying attention, going back to my point is it is the new toy, but paying attention is okay, how can we realistically implement it into our workflow and not disrupt or basically break down all the other work that we're doing. There's just so many things that are going on. So, we're kind of excited about what that type of technology and data transparency can bring us.
That's great insights. Thank you. Bodi, you want to go next?
And, to kind of piggyback on that, Steven's really talking about, the whole data democratization and making sure that customers, have visibility, right, to their own data as well. For us, Littelfuse, what we've tried to do is really to use data to kind of align the entire organization. First off, aligning my corporate marketing team, and then aligning the larger marketing communications teams within the various business units, and then, aligning the executive team, right, that runs those businesses. And data can really help you do that and remove some of the kind of emotion, remove some of the anecdotal evidence that may be relevant or not. In the conversation, if you're going to be, transformation leaders, business transformation leaders within organizations, I think you really have to use as much customer data as possible so that the entire organization is kind of moving in the same direction in terms of changing to address customer needs. For the marketing organization, we use it to kind of figure out what content works, what content needs, drilling down in terms of engagement online. And then, I'm trying to figure out how we can use the customer data that we have to help with some of the front end activities or, manufacturing activities, supply chain, to kind of put those data points into that equation so that it helps the overall kind of customer experience all the way to, shipment and fulfillment and all of that. So, there's a huge need that, when we talk about customer experience, we, as marketers, we don't really talk too much about that part of the business, but the whole fulfillment aspect, people are just used to seeing and understanding data, and we need to align those folks to deliver a better customer experience at the back end.
That's great input. Really good examples. We have about 1 minute left of the panel, so Kiran, I'd love to hear your perspective, especially in a non-marketing role.
Thank you, Nicole. There are several metrics, right, which are available in the industry. Like for B2B customers, there is CSAT scores. For B2C, there is NPS. But again, I think besides the standard metrics, there are several approaches to gaining insights by mining your customer interactions. For example, if you have voice, you can transcribe that, run some machine learning models with your specialized metadata, right? So it has to be very specialized for your needs to pick up what your customers are thinking about you, and that will help customer engagement. It will make eventually better for us to serve our customers. Now, this can be true for not only just voice, but other channels. For example, surveys, that they give a very good understanding of customers' experience, and refining them and changing for the betterment of our customers. And eventually what all these things do is these insights help us close that feedback loop to better our product, to better our interactions. That is the key, right, at the end of the day.
Yeah, I love being able to feedback loop. It's the same thing that we say here.
All right.
Thank you guys so much. I know it is past 2, so it's time for the Q&A. So I am going to hand it back over to Maria. But to our audience, thank you so much for still being on the line. Please submit any questions that you have so we can start answering them.
Thank you to the panelists and Nicole for doing a great job moderating. We're now going to review some of the questions that were submitted by the audience during the discussion. And the first question is, in what ways are you building customer loyalty through a new developing technology? Who would like to jump on that one?
I can start. Just as far as Bold 360 from a company perspective, I think it's great to look at customer experience as a whole. Customer loyalty is so important. So, we are B2B, selling to businesses. A lot of our customers are B2C, but B2B as well. And so it's really important to, continuously look at how we can improve the customer experience, because we think that that is really a key to gaining loyalty. So just with updating even the own, bot that we have on our website, making sure that our support agents have everything that they need, just as far as doing different customer advocacy with our current customers.
Yeah, this is Stephen. I'll piggyback on that. So yeah, I think for us, it's the mindset of how are we adding value to the customer. I think for us in our industry, price was such a big deal for years and years, and it still is. But I think we're trying to really align ourselves with strategic partners who basically we can say, hey, look at what the value that we can bring, and let's talk about what tools we can add. And how we can interact as a business more efficiently. And I think building that type of relationship where it's more consultative on our part and not just a transactional business has really helped, heighten the level of customer service. Because in our world, metal is metal. There's no difference between the product. And so it really comes down to the customer service and what we're trying to do to help their business grow and to really continue with that messaging on the marketing side. We're really looking for you to grow along with us. And so I think that's definitely helped us retain a lot of our customers, and also that's how we approach new business as well.
Great. So the next question is, how do you see that new developing technology allow you to have deeper foresight into the future of customer outcomes?
Yeah, the other aspect of ML AI piece for us is, around the marketing automation and how customers are interacting with that content and the scoring, and having machines learn patterns in terms of who's engaging more and who's ready to buy. That's really is going to help the sales organization, figure out who is the hottest lead, that they should be working on and they should be reaching out to. So, for us, that's the next stage of using, machine learning to help figure out how best to approach and connect with a potential customer.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, when I'm looking, when we're talking about our own organization as well as some of our customers, we have a lot of customers who have very complicated products, and it's a longer sales cycle than some of our other organizations. And I think that you can really use technology to look at where people and customers and prospects are having, fall-offs on your website, or where they're having issues, and what you can do in a scalable way to help those organizations and customers move down the customer journey.
Okay, great. So the next question is, do you foresee implementation of AI as a good investment for B2B organizations as well as B2C organizations?
Personally, I can start with this one. Go ahead, Kiran. I've talked a lot. I'll let you go. I'm sorry.
Again, I think the key is technologies are there, whether it's new or emerging or existing ones, right? You have to understand your customer first. Is it really needed for that, right? If there is, then definitely go for that interaction, right? But again, all these technologies at the end of the day is serving your customer, making them to do more business with you. So I think sometimes people get overblown on technology. Yes, AI is great. I have done AI. I wouldn't even want to say, but close to 28 years ago. But the time of the technology, is it mature enough? Is your industry mature enough to absorb that? I think those are also all the key vital facts. It's a lot of a buzzword, but again, look at your applicability on where and how can you use it. What is the return on investment what that technology provides? And if it does, then go for it. There is nothing wrong with it.
Yes, just from my perspective, because I work with a lot of B2C customers as well as B2B, and we have a ton of B2B customers who are using, our technology and AI technology in similar use cases to a B2B customer. Maybe it's a little bit different. So I know I gave the example Citrix. Citrix was on top of my head because I did a webinar with Patrick Quinlan a few weeks ago, but really around looking at, the problems they're having. Maybe it's customer engagement. For them, for example, it was really around call deflection. They're getting a ton of support questions from customers that are actually using their products, and how do you deflect that? So we see a lot of different use cases, but we do have, a huge list of B2B customers.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, cost is always, you're either are putting more money to the bottom line, or you're, helping grow sales. And certainly it's, I look at it as my job to figure out how to make sure that we can maximize use of, machine learning, hardware and software to actually make things more efficient, or, help create better customer relationships and customer experience to help grow the top line. But, we're certainly, cost driven as well. And, to look at machines as opposed to humans, I hate to say it, but I think, they're going to replace some of the things that we do today, right, in our roles. And so we really got to figure out, how best to utilize machine learning and AI to help our organization continue to grow, and make more money. So.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't have to be bleeding edge. Sorry, it doesn't have to be leading edge. Just you can use smart.
Yeah, it's got to be focused on what the
supplement that which we talked about, right? So it could be as simple as that, right? It's already out there, available for us to use.
Yes.
Ready for the next question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, do you believe that there will ever be a completely seamless customer experience due to innovative new technology?
That's a great question. So I think that every customer interaction is different, and I think it's very important to look at each interaction like it's different. Nothing's cookie cutter. Will every single interaction ever be perfect? I don't think so. I think that all you can do is work on improving the current engagements that you have and the way that you engage with customers. But I don't think there's going to be one perfect answer, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think scalability is tough, right? Like, for example, in our company, we're coming in existence like 30 years later. And it's like, all right, let's implement all these new things. And so our internal staff has been used to doing business for 20 plus years one way, and now we're telling them to do something completely different, and they're completely stressed out. I was like, oh, you're adding another thing to my workflow. And so I think, like knowing the struggles internally, obviously it's not going to translate fully to our customers as well. So I think it's really, taking baby steps, at least for, where we stand. But obviously if you build from scratch, it allows you more opportunities to be more seamless to a certain extent instead of like something that's been more established.
Right. I in a way I agree, because, that is your ultimate goal, is that seamless handoff, that seamless customer experience. It's difficult when you have multiple platforms, multiple technologies. But if you're on the same platform, it's easier that way. So, for example, imagine a customer, doing a chat. You want to escalate that to a voice conversation based on the chat. If you hand it over to a different agent, that is not a good customer experience, because the person has to repeat everything what they said in the chat. But if it goes to the same agent, that makes a lot of sense, right? So that's what we talk about, seamless customer experience, and that should always be the goal. If you're on the same platform, again, it's easier. Different platform, it becomes very difficult. And when you start customizing and writing custom code, it becomes very painful in the long run to maintain, and very expensive to maintain in the long run, right?
I agree with that fully. I love that example, and it really is about, you can create a seamless escalation to, say, a live person, whether it's from chat, a support center, whether you're on Facebook Messenger, and have all of that data and information in one place with the help of AI. So I love that example. Thank you, Kiran.
You're welcome.
Maria, do you have another question for us? Are we out of time?
Okay, yes, we have time for one more question. Do the old ways of customer service still work? If so, what do you think never will change?
I think that definitely depends on what we mean by the old ways of customer service. I think, again, like I said before, just because something's old does not mean it's not good or doesn't work. Maybe it means it's not as scalable. Maybe there's new, more efficient ways to do it. So, for example, having an agent for every single, customer inquiry, that might be great, but it's not scalable. Maybe there is a more scalable way to do so, especially with AI. Or maybe, customers' expectations are changing. So maybe it's not that, the old ways of customer service aren't good and aren't useful anymore, but customers want something different. So if you were looking, 50 years ago, people wouldn't necessarily be talking about email or texting, but as technology evolves, I think it's really important that your customer service and your customer experience evolves with that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I would say, what? Don't become, I hate to say that, but don't become another Toys R Us. You have to adapt and change with technology. Doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot live with your existing tool, but have small baby steps to move and adapt. As much as I love Toys R Us, I'm very sad to see it go, so don't end up in like that, right? Take baby steps, grow organically, Best Buy should be a good model for all of us. You see how they have gradually turned around from a brick and mortar to a more also of an online presence, right? You have to adapt to meet your customers' needs and the new change of technology, right? You have to meet that customer's need also.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. I want to thank you for joining us today for this fantastic virtual event. Thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, thank you.